Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Everything But the Law, where we literally talk about everything but the law. Today, I have a very, very special guest who also happens to be my best friend. She is a nurse who just completed her nurse practitioner program and is going to be licensed in a few months. Her name is Elisabeth. She's going to share the ins and outs of what it takes to become a nurse practitioner. Here she is, Elisabeth.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course, my favorite guest, who is literally my sister. So, at the beginning of each episode, I try to get my guest's favorite drink. This time we're drinking mimosas because that's what we've been drinking for, I was going to say the last 20 years, but that would be a little too long. It's Prosecco with tangerine.
We're trying tangerine today.
Yeah, so
it's a pretty nice mix.
How does it feel being on a podcast you've never done a podcast before, so how does it feel?
It's a very interesting feel, just trying to loosen up, taking a few sips here and there, but it's fun. I'm so happy to be here. It's an honor to have me on your podcast.
Well,
as
thank
episode
you.
number 2, right?
Yeah, episode number two. So let's start it off with a cheers.
Cheers.
I guess we'll start with how we know each other. Literally the day I landed in the United States and I was going inside my grandma's house, she saw my grandma. You knew my grandma.
I knew your grandma. Your grandma and I were besties. We go way back when. I saw her, spotted you. I'm like, her and I feel connection.
Yeah.
And I said, can she come out and play with me? And next thing you know, the next day, I think it was, right? Because you were a little tired.
Yeah, I was probably a little tired. I don't remember the moment exactly, but literally I did not speak a lick of English. We were miming to each other. That's how we were playing. And after that, we've been friends for literally 20 years. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary.
We did. We went to Paris last year. We made a wine. We did a winemaking class.
Yeah.
And we still have to open our bottle of wine.
Yeah, we still have to open our bottle of wine that we made together. But anyway, we'll touch on basically how we grew up and how that shaped us to who we are now and our journeys together. But what I want to know, and I want to know more about you. So for a viewer that might not know who a nurse practitioner is or what they do, can you give us a little breakdown of what is a nurse practitioner, or what is that program?
Absolutely. So a nurse practitioner is an advanced practice nurse. So essentially you have to have your bachelor's in nursing and then you continue to a graduate program. So I have my master's in nursing now, and you can even get your doctorate of nursing. But the biggest difference between a registered nurse, which is what most people probably are very familiar with, and a nurse practitioner is a nurse practitioner can diagnose and prescribe medications. And that's the biggest ultimate difference.
So a registered nurse cannot prescribe or diagnose, but a nurse practitioner is a step up. You could diagnose and you could prescribe. So what is the difference between a doctor and a nurse practitioner?
Well, it's different schooling. So as a nurse practitioner, the biggest difference that I can say from my experience is more of bedside mannerisms is what we're really taught in nursing school. So it's all about the patient and their comfort and just kind of being by their side. Whereas, and then as a doctor, doctor. Yeah.
So it's just like a completely different
program for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So why did you decide to become a nurse practitioner and not a doctor? Because the schooling is pretty heavy on both ends. So
that's the question I always get. Honestly, as a little girl, I just always knew I wanted to be a nurse. And so I stuck on that path and I became a nurse, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to continue. I want to be a nurse practitioner. I see more potential for myself. So I'm doing everything. I'm an aesthetic nurse. So as a nurse practitioner, I will still work in aesthetics, but it's a more honorable role, I guess, in a sense. I don't know. It's a higher title. So it's I don't know.
I feel like as a nurse practitioner, you also have a bit more flexibility than a doctor. No?
Oh, kinda. I guess it depends.
And in a sense, a doctor is always liable for everything.
Yes, liability is
right.
Yeah.
And so
you always have to have your malpractice for your own protection. But technically, yes, doctors, your traditional doctors, kind of do. They are.
Yeah. So tell us all the schooling that you did and kind of break it down for us after high school.
So after high school, I decided to go to just traditional undergrad. Nursing was a very difficult undergrad program to get into right after high school, so I chose to do public health promotion. I went to CSUN. Shout out to my matadors. But so that was a 4-year program for me. I chose public health promotion because a lot of the prerequisites were similar to the nursing prereqs, so like the biologies, the anatomy, all of that. So after that, it was time for nursing. So what I wanted was some kind of an entry-level master's program where, like, to become a nurse practitioner ultimately at the end goal. So Azusa Pacific, which is where I went, they have this 4-year master's program, and you have to have your prior bachelor's. So I kind of checked off those those check marks. And so I had to do more prerequisites for this program because they're big on psychology. So I took about a year and a half working on my prerequisites.
After you got your bachelor's?
After I got my bachelor's. I took a very long route to get to where I am. But I mean,
so did I. I think that's the point of this podcast, that I want to instill that you could just, everyone has a different path, and you finally get to where you want to be.
Exactly. That's the end goal, is everything. So it's the drive that really matters.
So you took a year and a half.
Took a year and a half of extra classes, and some grades I was kind of, I had a B, let's say, and I'm like, I want to get an A in this class. So I retook a couple classes. So I got into my nursing program finally at Azusa, and it was a year. I had a whole year. When was it? I got in 2018. They gave me the big call to start in May 2019. So I had some time off, and that's when we did our little travels, which we can talk about. And then so May 2019, and I just graduated December 2023.
And its entirety from high school to the end, how many years did it take?
So high school was 2012.
Yeah.
And now it's 20. Oh my gosh, it was a long time. 11 years.
11 years.
Never in my life would I imagine.
Yeah. But I mean, you weren't like always in nursing. Like, you took those classes, you took, a little bit of a break, this and that. Yeah. But yeah, that's crazy. 11 and a half years after high school.
Wild.
It didn't seem like that.
No. I remember in high school, I thought, like, there's no way I'm going to be done with school in like 5-6 years. If someone told me 11 years,
you're like, by like 23, 24, I'm going to be done with everything. But just life just doesn't go that way sometimes. And that's okay. Completely okay.
And that's actually really exciting. But I finished it before 30, so that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, people want to become a nurse or an attorney in their late 30s, early 40s. The oldest person in my class was, when I first started law school, he was 57. That's amazing. Pretty crazy. And then the youngest was 19 or 20.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, in my program, in my class, the youngest, I think he was 20 or 21. And then the oldest, I don't know. Yeah. But there are people with kids.
With nurses, everyone always wants to become a nurse no matter what age. It's such a stable job to have, because I feel like you could always find a job with nursing.
It is, because someone out there in the world always needs help. And nursing is such a broad field. Like, there are so many different kinds of nurses that you wouldn't even imagine. There are travel nursing, by the way, amazing. Something I wish I could have done, but at this point I'm established. But if I could go back, I actually would do travel nursing for a little bit.
They make a crazy amount of money. They do. I had a few clients who were travel nurses, and they make upwards of like $250K a year. It was insane.
And everything is paid for: your stay, the car, just all of the above.
But then you would have to work at a hospital, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And I'm just not I have so much respect for hospital nurses. It's just not my thing.
Yeah. You do like the pretty stuff.
I do the pretty stuff. Yeah. Aesthetics. It's the pretty stuff, but it's a lot of psychology.
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
A lot of people come in, it's, you always want to make someone, I genuinely want someone to feel good when they leave my office. But I only speak honesty, but also you have to know how to navigate certain conversations. Like someone will come in and be like, "Oh, I'm not happy with this and that." I always navigate it towards love yourself for who you are. This is all just for fun, and we're just doing fun little enhancements. And I always say a little sprinkle, like I talk about little sprinkles here and there. But you just make it fun and light. But yeah, there's a lot of psychology involved, and I have patients of all ages, like really young girls with social media now these days. They get influenced, and you want to kind of help to stray away from that and learn to love yourself first.
Yeah.
And then do everything else is just for fun.
I mean, you kind of answered it, but why did you get into aesthetics?
Because I love the artistic side of nursing.
Yeah.
And you have to have an eye for it, honestly. You really do, because it's someone's face. It's the first thing everyone sees. It's the face, body. So there's that artistic feature to it. But it's also, I'm such a people person, and I have all different kinds of people sit on my chair. So it's so much fun. My work does not feel like work. Yeah. It just feels like another day hanging out with friends. We're such a family environment in my office.
Going back to the program, I think another good thing about your program is you said after 18 months you become an RN, and then you could work. Yeah. And then you could work, make money, and then still finish up your program and become a nurse practitioner.
Exactly. So they actually require you to work. In the master's portion, you need a resume. You're building your resume, so they require you to work. And actually, for a little while, aesthetics was they want you to have experience in more traditional hospital settings, med surg, or certain specialties where you're constantly around prescriptions and you get familiar with different drugs and everything.
You do filler, Botox. Tell us a little bit about everything that you do.
I do literally everything. So anywhere there's skin, there's muscle, there's bone, we can work, we can do something on it. Yeah. So I do all different kinds of injectables, Botox, which everyone knows. It's a neuromodulator, relaxes your muscles, makes you look awakened and just kind of relaxed. You can treat in all different ways, more just conservatively, whereas like baby Botox, which is what a lot of people refer to as, or the frozen, like
frozen face.
To each their own. Yeah. So that's neuromodulators, and then there are fillers. There are different kinds of fillers. I only work with hyaluronic acid filler.
Is that up to you to decide what you inject, or is it like, okay, it's a pretty common practice to put this in lips and this in,
A little bit of both, because it depends. Are you treating on label or off label? On label, there are very specifics of what goes where, but off label, you can kind of, if you're doing a lip filler, let's say, you can, if you have some extra product, like, let's put a little more here or there.
What's off label?
So on label, like, okay, we're gonna talk about Botox for one quick second. So Allergan, which is the owner of Botox, the big corporation. So Allergan Institute, they, by the book, every person can use 64 units. That's on label. So each person that sits on my table should get 64 units of Botox on their face. It's a breakdown. It's like a bunch of 4 units all around the face. Generally,
units, they make you.
No, they don't. So that's it's kind of like the rule book. It's like the rule book. Okay. But you can make your own rules. So like, not everyone. I don't know if I should be saying this, but like technically not everyone needs 64 units. Yeah, okay. So some people, they want more of like a softer look or whatever it is, or everyone's forehead is different. Someone with a larger forehead, stronger muscles, like males can use more units. And how you're distributing the product. So not everyone will use 64 units. I have plenty of people come at my table anywhere between 20 to 30 units, 40 units. It's all different. So that's kind of off label.
So what is the difference between Botox and filler? First of all, let's start there.
Okay, so Botox, first of all, is it's a brand of a neurotoxin. So neurotoxins relax the muscle. It essentially paralyzes the muscle. So it's a muscle treatment, and I'll get back to it. But a filler is a gel that fills in anywhere there's depletion of volume.
Do you think it's ever too early to start?
Yeah, like if you're a teenager, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think early 20s, mid 20s is that perfect time.
Yeah.
To
I mean, I
start.
think if you're a teenager, that's, in my personal opinion, I think that's too early.
Like, enjoy it. Enjoy your youth. There is a
Yeah.
time for everything, honestly. And it's also, so I started my Botox treatments because I noticed those creases, and I'm very open with sharing. I talk about this with my patients all the time. I just noticed my makeup would get stuck in my creases throughout the day, and I didn't like that. So after treating those lines, you just get that smooth forehead. And I've actually noticed it helps with acne as well.
Really?
I have.
I know, you know, when you see people, especially online, you see them, they have like this like really plump face, like almost reflective.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's probably a combination of a lot of lasers. Everyone can use lasers for the most part. Actually.
But with lasers, I've heard, and you could tell me your opinion. So I've heard that with lasers, there is such a thing as being too young to put such strong lasers on your skin.
Depends on the laser. Like Laser Genesis, for example, is just a heat-based laser, and it's actually amazing for acne.
Yeah.
It kills bacteria. It just softens and plumps your skin. But if we're talking about like a CO2 refractional laser, where we're literally peeling away or burning off a layer of your skin,
even in young 20s, that would probably be too early. Like for instance, like Morpheus 8.
Okay,
that's a really intense.
That's pretty
laser.
intense. But if it's someone who has acne scars, for example, it will target that. So there are all kinds of microneedlings. So that's microneedling with radio frequency. So that radio frequency is the heat aspect of it, where there's tightening, lifting, essentially. But the microneedling portion of it, I think even a teenager can do, can benefit from if you already have those scarring and texture, large pores, all of that.
I guess I'm saying more in a way where you have pretty good skin, and you still want to maintain, or you want to make it better. If you don't have like deep acne scars and stuff as a teenager, you probably don't want to go and get but it's like really
if it's not necessary, there's so
that makes sense. Okay, so we talked about Botox, lasers, and so now fillers. Everyone is obsessed with lip filler, right? So that's the most common lip filler.
Lips, cheeks. Yeah, lips and
cheeks.
What
would you say? Cheeks are more common, or lip?
I do a lot of lips, but cheeks are also like cheeks and lips. Those are the two number one.
I would not have guessed. I would not have guessed.
Yeah,
and then
generally.
can you put Botox in your cheeks to lift that?
No. Botox. The closest area here is really just more like the eyes. You can do microtox.
Oh, what are microtox?
So
microtox or microtoxins?
Just microtox. It's a form of a treatment of neurotoxins. So microtox is very superficial, tiny little injections. So those very fine lines that you see, you can essentially soften them with this neuromodulator. So if someone, let's say, doesn't want to do lasers or microneedling or something like that, and I already have you on the table for Botox, and you have those really fine little lines under the eyes, you just do little sprinkles, my favorite term. You do little sprinkles of Botox. Sprinkles. Under the eyes. You have to stay very superficial. Also, you have to really know the musculature of the face, because you can mess someone's face up. You can give them a droopy eye. You can block the lymphatic drainage in the face, and then they get poofy. So you have to really know what you're doing, and so it's all about practice. So fortunately, I've taken 1 million training courses, and every day is practice. And I work alongside amazing nurses that I learn from, and there's no such thing as too much training, too much education. Even those people who have been in the industry 20, 25, 30 plus years, they still learn new things and new techniques. And so it's a beautiful just environment to be surrounded in. And I go to any possible training I can because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to learn. So,
I mean, that's with, I think, being a professional in any field, the learning doesn't stop, because things always develop. Like, it's same thing with being an attorney. Like, just because you're an attorney doesn't mean you're not going to learn the new laws that are coming out, or whatever, maybe a new court decision, or whatever it may be. What was your biggest obstacle finishing school?
Oh gosh, just the whole motive of continuing and just going. It was hard, honestly. There was a time where I really wanted to take a semester off because it was just a lot of workload. There was just a lot going on at all times with clinicals. I had 2 clinical rotations and I had 19 units in one semester.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot. So it's something you have to sign up for and be prepared for. But also something I always talk about is balance. You have to know how to balance your lifestyle. So that's really what worked for me is I had to sit down and really think, how do I want to do this? How do I want to approach the situation? Because it was kind of a take a semester off, and potentially I was afraid of getting too comfortable with not being in school anymore and not going back. That's always the rational fear of it all. Because technically you could take 1 year off and come back. But I just wanted to keep going. So what I actually did twice is I ended up in the master's portion. In the bachelor's, you gotta go with it. You have to stick through it for 18 months. If you may or may not have a life, but you know, it is what it is. And then for the master's portion, I ended up just taking 1 class at a time at one point because it was a lot.
That's how you could do most things, is being well balanced. Because if you're just so hyper focused on being in school or whatever it is, then that part of your life that's lacking at some point is going to take over. That's how I feel for most people, and obviously I'm speaking generally.
Right. How did you keep your balance in law school?
I think, I don't know. It just came naturally to me.
Yeah.
But sometimes it would like lean one way or the other. But I also had a huge transition in law school, where after my first semester of law school, we went online because of COVID. So that was a huge transition. We were all staying inside.
Yeah.
There was no social life.
Yeah.
And I found that was really difficult. That was a difficult transition because I am a social person, and not seeing people and like not really interacting in a classroom was a challenge. Yeah. So, and on top of that, I couldn't be social at all. So I'm just sitting at home.
I actually completely agree. I remember the day that they took all of us nursing students out of the hospital. Yeah. I was in the pediatrics unit at Chalk at a children's hospital, Orange County. Beautiful hospital, by the way. Yeah. But we were on the unit, and there was an announcement of all students have to get off the unit. Yeah. So it was an early day, and here I was thinking, I was like, oh, we're finally gonna, you know, we couldn't get our nails done. I love my nails. We could not get our nails done. So tragic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can finally get my nails done. I don't have to be in the hospital.
But then you can't.
And then little did I know the entire world shut down.
I know.
It's crazy.
I always talk about how you need to find balance, you need to be social, this and this and that. And I think that's like surface level talk. But when you're, for instance, and I can only speak from my experience because I only went to law school and no other profession. But I think a tougher conversation is when you're going through this rigorous course of whatever you're doing, and then something like tragic happens, or if something like really devastating happens, that's the hardest thing to do. I think to just keep going during that time.
Yeah, and I went through a few hurdles in personal life. Stuff that happened, you know,
and those things are hard to share. Hard to like share and talk about. Same thing here, especially like after COVID when that happened, and then I was going through like personal stuff a lot, and then trying to do all that, and then still be a law student was a struggle.
It's heavy.
Yeah, because then you're like, I just want to stop doing everything.
Yeah.
And you don't want to keep going.
Right. But then you wake up and you're like, I got to do this. I even wrote you a note once, remember why you started in the first place. And it's a good reminder, actually. Yeah. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what's my purpose, and what are my intentions with what I'm doing? So if it's something that, whatever it is in life, whether it's your career, you're finishing a program, a travel, whatever it is, it's like, what's the purpose in it all? And if it's worth it for you. So
exactly.
And I think your entire experience has been worth it.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely. I mean, looking back now, obviously it was worth it, but when you're in it, you're like, I don't know. Something about you, I think we have so much in common, but we also have a lot of things that are different. And one of them being that you are the most optimistic person that I've ever met. And I wouldn't say I'm the most pessimistic, but I'm just like, I'm more grounded in a sense of like, I look at things very black and white, I guess. You look at things in like a very positive light, which is a great thing.
We balance each other.
Yeah. I think that's what we are the opposites in that sense. And so I've learned to be a bit more like you, and I think you've learned to be a bit more like me in that sense. And so how do you always stay so positive?
Well, I mean, like a normal person, I have my moments, of course, but...
You're not like a normal person, actually, at all. You're always in a good mood. I don't think I mean, obviously, over 20 years, I know that, but most people that know you, I don't think have ever seen you in a bad mood.
Honestly, I think it just comes from within.
Yeah.
That's, for my experience, I genuinely count my blessings every day, and I feel very grateful to be like who I am and where I am in life. So that's my, like, the only answer I can really think. That's the first thing that comes to my head. It's even as simple as, you know, I have my vision, I'm breathing, I'm not coughing today, you know, just like I have a car, I have a job, I have a family, I have my amazing friends, and it's little things like that and everything I have to look forward to in life. Yeah. Those are the things that keep me going. Like, we have so many celebrations. We have, I think of all the celebratory moments in life that I'm looking forward to. And we're human. We go through stuff, you know, in life, and you can't, I don't like to dwell on things for longer than I have to. So I'll take it in as it is. I'll experience the emotions, but also I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Next.
But I think naturally though, you've always been that kind of a person.
Yeah.
And even when we were kids, we had the same personalities. Yeah. Obviously now it's been more developed. Yeah. But like I think I was always, I don't even know how to describe myself. How would you describe it? Like more reserved, and like I think
you're a realist. Like,
yeah, and I think with certain things, you're more lighthearted with things, which I wish a lot of times I can be, but with a lot of things I'll like it will really affect me when it really shouldn't. Yeah. Some things obviously like affect me on a really like deep level where I'm like sitting there thinking about it all the time, and that like it just weighs heavy on me, where you could be like, okay, well, that didn't whatever and then move on, kind of thing.
I think it's just what you put your energy towards, and I don't like to put my energy towards something that's not going to matter down the line. And that's how I explain to people, just like, that's why some people say, it's like, okay, Elisabeth, like, but this is what I'm dealing with. Like, yeah, I know this is what you're dealing with, and that's okay. Take it in. You're human. Feel it, accept it, and then move on. Like, it's really not that complicated. Like, nothing is that... Actually, fun fact, I do want to write a book one day. And I want to speak to my audience just like I'm speaking to you, to all of you. Something very lighthearted, but literally nothing is that complicated in life. It's there's a quote of, it's 10% what happens to you and 90% of how you handle it. So, but literally nothing is that serious. Even as serious as death, for example, people move on. You find a new normal. So it's, we are the ones that can we are the ones in charge of making things complicated. So
I agree with you in that sense, but I also disagree in a sense where I don't think it's that easy. Especially, it depends on who you are as a person. And I heard maybe it was a TikTok video, which I get most of my information from now. There's like a baseline. Someone was saying that there's like a baseline of like, I guess, your mood or your feeling. And for instance, I feel like you have a higher baseline because your baseline normal is like cheerful, you're whatever. I think my baseline is very low. So I get excited about things very rarely. Like, it's very It's way lower than yours. That's my baseline. Obviously, sometimes I can get really excited, or sometimes I get really upset, just like you could get really upset sometimes.
Right.
But you come back to your baseline and it's much higher than mine. I think that makes so much more sense to me, and I think every person has a different baseline.
Right.
I think. So when you're dealing with like big things, like how you mentioned death, I think it could affect people very differently.
Yeah.
And it's not, and people could take years, I think.
No,
grieving someone, and other people could take a few months, and I and that's why I guess people say like when people are grieving, like you just don't know,
right,
and there's really no right or wrong way, and I think it kind of ties back to that baseline, because you don't know what someone's baseline is. Right.
But also imagine if we all had the same baseline. That would be so boring.
Yeah, of course. And I mean that's why you learn from one another.
I think it's so, I love humanity so much. I love people so much because it's so amazing.
Can you guys understand what I'm saying here? Exactly. I'm like, death, baseline, whatever. You're like, I love humanity so much.
I think God sprinkled a little extra sugar in my
100%. You can't be around Elisabeth and like be in a bad mood. Even though sometimes I'm like, Elisabeth, please
shut up.
This is not the time to be laughing and. I'm like overly observant, which another thing that I hate, like overly aware of myself.
Don't hate that about yourself, Miriam.
No,
that's a very strong word.
It's a great gift, but it's something that I want to change. I feel like I'm too self-aware of things that it's almost crippling. And then I get annoyed when other people are not as self-aware, and I can't expect that from other people. For instance, like in a grocery store, if I'm very mindful on who I'm close to, I'm very mindful. I'll wait for someone to grab their salad before I grab my salad. And then if I'm there grabbing my salad and someone like goes under me and like tries to grab, like that is, I will stand there like, I'm sorry, did I not just wait 5 minutes for so-and-so to grab their salad?
Mom does not hold back when she likes or does not like something. She will put you in your place. But it to a certain extent. But that's actually good. That's something I learned from you. Like, always speak your mind. I'm very verbal at this point in my life, and I think you have influenced me in that way, and in the most amazing way. You know, so it's.
I mean, I think it depends on what again. I'm not that vocal. Like if someone does that to me in a grocery store, I won't like make a scene. But if I feel like I'm disrespected or something like that, I will. Especially with friendships. I know I always talk about this. I think if there's like a miscommunication or whatever, if I care enough for the friendship and I emphasize on the care, there are a lot of times where I felt like disrespected from an acquaintance or a friend, and I didn't care enough to remedy the situation, or I just kind of let it go and let that friendship go, because I'm like, this is not it for me. With my close friends, I think it's always worth that time to, like, if there's a disagreement, like I will write you a paragraph and let you know this is how I felt, and then it's always worked like this, where the other person either has their side of the story, or they'll be like, I didn't even know, I'm so sorry. And then I'm always very open to accepting an apology, and then I move on and I never bring up that situation again.
If you ask me, that's called maturity.
Yeah.
Maturity 101, and you have aced it.
I was definitely not always like that. So
I don't think most of us were ever like that. It's as we grow, we mature, we learn how to communicate. You know what you want, what you don't want, you know how to handle certain situations. And I think communication is key in every aspect of life, with relationships, any kind of friendships, relate your partnerships, in work. So I have to say, you are amazing with your words, and you know how to always say what you mean, but like you will never say something you don't mean. You are very, like, you think about what you want to say before you say it, and you will not say something unless you truly mean it, and that's a huge like, that's amazing, and I love you for that.
Thank you. I love you too. And I think it's also the other way around. Like if I'm like expressing to you what I think you did wrong in a situation, I'm also, and this is something that I work on constantly, like where I have to reflect on my actions, and if I do things wrong, plenty of times, and I'm open to I will apologize
Yeah.
even before someone else realizes that whatever it is, or they might not see it the same way, but I'll be like, okay, maybe she could have taken, like, let's say for you, like, oh, maybe Elisabeth took this the wrong way, let me apologize. Be like, oh, I hope you didn't take this the wrong way because this and that. Or just be open to apologizing, because there's nothing wrong with apologizing when you're wrong in a situation at all.
It's also being open to receiving this information, the criticism or whatever it is, or just whatever it is in life. So to listen and to accept, that's how you grow. And that's why you have to surround yourself by people who have the best intentions for you. That's such a like, it's such a blessing. We have the most amazing group of friends, and literally that's one of the blessings I count for every single day. We really genuinely care and love each other. You are who you surround yourself by, so it's okay to let go of people, you know, and that's something that is very uncomfortable. But what I've learned also is self-love is so important. It all starts with you. And if someone is really bringing you down or does not bring out the best side of you, it might be time to let go, whatever that means. Whoever.
It doesn't have to be a very dramatic thing.
No, it's life.
It's life.
And it's life.
And I've also found, like, I've tried being friends with certain people, whatever, and let's say you could drift apart and stop talking. You could just kind of end the relationship, say, I don't want to, basically, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And that doesn't make the other person a bad person. No. It just, sometimes maybe you're just not a right match. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Like, that's just, I know that about myself. You probably are, because you're just a very upbeat person. I'm not.
But is everyone my cup of tea?
Yeah,
no,
probably
that's something
not.
I've learned.
But I have a very strong personality in one sense, and I know that I'm not for everyone, and I know a lot of people are not for me, and that's okay. I'm okay with not being liked by everyone, and that's okay.
That's okay. That's something that's actually, it's hard to admit, but that's something, like, to not be liked by people. It's like, what?
I mean, that was a hard thing. This is a very recent thing, and it's still an up and down kind of a thing. It's not like, that's it, I don't care what anyone thinks of me or what. It's not that. It's just something that I always try to rewire in my brain, that it's okay if people don't like you, because as humans, you want to be liked by everyone. Naturally. You want, even if you don't like them, you want them to like you. Right. Because it's like, you want that feeling.
It's natural. Like, who doesn't want to be like, who wants that kind of a negative, like, no, they don't like me.
Anyway, so change of topic. One thing that I wanted to see if you would also have the same answer to is, what do you think is the one thing that we both have in common that has shaped us into who we are and has gotten us here, that is a very significant thing in our life?
Mom.
Yeah, that's literally exactly what I was thinking.
Mommy.
So our moms are the most amazing people ever, obviously, because they're our moms. Yeah. But they really instilled so many lessons in us, and and they are the reason why I think we are here today. Not I think, I know, both of us. And her mom is like my mom is like her mom. And so we could talk about some of the greatest lessons that they've taught us, or at least one huge one that we, carry with us every day. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, no. The first thing that pops into my head is that there are no limits in life. Unlimited. The sky is not even the limit. You can go way past the sky, and that's really stuck with me my entire life, and that's why I just keep going, and that's where I think my drive comes from. I've seen my mom. She's just so effing amazing. Yeah. She is unstoppable. That's another unstoppable and limitless. It's those two words are the best way to describe my mom and who she is deep down and what she's taught me.
Not just only taught you, but things that you've seen her do. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, that is So that is possible.
My mom does not give up. She does not take no for an answer. If she wants something, she's going to make it happen. And I've grown with that by my side. So that's literally why I am the way I am. Like, if I want it, I'm going to get it. Or I'm going to make it happen one way or another. Like, no doesn't exist. It just doesn't.
No,
why?
100%.
Like, if someone else can do it, why can't I? And two, if no one's done it before, there's always a first person. There's always a first something. So you can always be that first. And there's no such thing as impossible.
I completely agree with that.
So,
and that's
thanks,
a value.
Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
And Stevie.
So I think for me, my mom, the most important lesson, it's who I am at this point. She's taught me to have my own identity at all times. So just literally knowing who I am, and that takes a lot of work to actually know who you are, what you like, and standing your own ground. And it's okay to be different from people as long as you know who you are, and you learn your self-worth and things that you will tolerate in your life and things that you won't tolerate in your life.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
And
saves you so much time. And
100%. And when you're not pretending to be something else, and once again, this is not like all of a sudden you know who you are. It takes time. You probably struggle with who you are your entire life, but obviously the closer you get, and the more experiences that you have, and the more time you take to self-reflect on who you are, is how you just become a better person and live a better life. Because that has been literally the best lesson that she has taught me. My mom is a very strong individual. All women in my life are very, very strong individuals, including my grandmother Marina. My grandma raised me for a portion of my life, and she, till this day, it's whatever Marina says goes. She is my grandmother, and I have young parents and grandparents. She's about 69 years old, and till this day she is our family's dictator. I love her very much, but I'm also very scared of her.
Gotta respect them. Absolutely.
The respect is out of this world, to say it in a nice way. You know my grandma.
I love baby. I love you so much.
Yeah, because she's always nice to you. Okay.
And she makes me amazing clutch up.
She loves you and doesn't take things out on you. But me, on the other hand, even when we were kids and we would be playing. Do you remember that one story where Elisabeth, my grandma's mad at me about something? When my grandma is mad, don't worry.
You're going to know.
You have two options. Either beg for forgiveness or that's it. It's done. And I decided to not do any of those options. And I'm like, you know what? She's not talking to me. Well, I learned my lesson. She's mad at me, and I go home, and she's not even looking at me. She's clearly, you know when my grandmother is pissed. She has that look. She's like, you are nothing to her. So she's I go in, I'm like, hi, Grandma. And she's just looking at me with those piercing eyes, and that's it. She's cooking something up. And then 5 or 10 minutes later, Elisabeth comes over, and Elisabeth walks in. She's like, hi, baby, how are you? And my grandma's like, oh my God, my favorite grandkid, whatever, is complete. I'm like, you're fake, first of all. How do you just go from doing that to me, and then all of a sudden you change up so quick? And now I know, because I do that too. And she was whatever. She's like, oh my God, are you hungry? Blah, blah, blah. She didn't ask me if I was hungry. And so she was cooking this thing in the oven, and you know what I'm talking about, right? She was this chicken parm in bread or something. And I guess she is whatever, Miriam could eat too. So she gives us 2 plates, and she gives one to Elisabeth, one to me. I'm taking a bite, and there's literally a toothpick.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that? There's a toothpick in my whatever she was serving. And I'm telling you, is she trying to kill me? And we start
the thoughts of a young teenager.
And to this day, I don't know if my grandma was trying to kill me because she was pissed at me. But again, I guess she left the toothpick in one of the things. But oddly enough, it had to be in my slice.
What a coincidence.
And yeah, anyway, I just went on a tangent there, but same thing with my grandma. They're very strong-willed, and those are like the biggest lessons that they have both taught me. So we've been talking a lot.
It's been a lot.
I actually don't want this to end because I think we could talk.
We could.
We should have our own podcast.
We should.
Just talk about. There are so many other topics that I want to talk to you about. But anyway, thank you so much for being my guest.
It was an absolute honor.
Time just flew. This was just like us talking on my couch. I hope you as viewers learned a lot about Elisabeth, about how to become a nurse practitioner, if it's right for you. I know we talked about things that were not even related.
We've just gone off tangent.
Yeah, it's just, we can't help it. I can't just talk to her about her career the entire time. We have too many things to talk about. But anyway, thank you so much. Actually, before.
Yes. Is this the moment? Oh my goodness.
And if you're listening to this on audio, you can't see, but I have a sweater that was made. And on the back it says, I don't know if you can pick that up. It says, everything but the law. It's my logo. And Elisabeth, you get my first hoodie.
I'm so happy. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so cozy.
Actually, I think that's a huge one. I have a smaller size that I'll give you after.
I will take the big one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But there you go.
I love this. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we're probably going to continue talking off camera, but
yeah, obviously. But yeah, anyway, that's our episode. If you have any questions for Elisabeth, obviously when I post this, I'll include all of her information.
I'm sure happy to help anybody out.
If anyone's thinking about becoming a nurse practitioner, I'm sure that Elisabeth would be more than happy to have a conversation. Same goes for me. If anyone's thinking about becoming a lawyer or whatever, my DMs are always open. And I think that's it. And should we do a last cheers to our very successful episode?
Yes, and cheers to us.
Okay, cheers to us.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.